In a country like Afghanistan, where it's the worst place to be a woman, the female journalist is the most effective storyteller.
They're just giving me the signal to start. Can you tell me why you set up Amu TV and how you managed to get the news from your journalists on the ground?
سخنگوی طالبان در گفتگوی با آمو تایید می‌کند که طالبان آماده تبادل زندانیان با آمریکا هستند.
So the Taliban imposed restrictions on media in the country, and we wanted to respond to that. So Amu TV is an initiative where journalists based inside the country sent information to journalists outside the country who will process them, produce them, package them, and then beam it back to the people of Afghanistan via satellite television.
How brave do these journalists have to be, and how dangerous is it for them? Do the Taliban actually know who your journalists are?
In some cases, yes, but in most cases, no. It is more dangerous this year than it was last year. We started with having declared journalists who are going to press conferences, not everywhere, but some places. With more crackdown, we had to adapt and become more anonymous and communicate with them in a more secure way.
How many of your journalists are women, and what sort of extra difficulties do they face?
Well, we have dozens of female journalists based in the country who work with Amu TV in different capacities. Most of them are not allowed to cover press conferences. Taliban ministers, when they see women coming to their events, they don't speak to them. And women journalists, have to cover their faces. A women journalist cannot interview a man on set. A women journalist cannot travel long distance because of Taliban's travel restrictions. And as a result, in 17 provinces of the country out of 34, at the moment, unfortunately, there is 0 female journalists.
How do you report on women's issues, though? Are you managing to get women's stories out there?
Yes. There was a rape case in Panjshir province that involved Taliban members. We had a female journalist who broke the story. And even the Taliban agreed that the incident happened. So we have examples like this, that even in a country like Afghanistan, where it's the worst place to be a woman, the female journalist is the most effective storyteller.
The Taliban have imposed even harsher restrictions recently. How do you see that impacting the future of TV in general if you cannot broadcast?
It will not affect Amu TV broadcasting from afar. And for the very same reason and concern that we had 3 years ago, we decided to set it up overseas, while the Taliban wanted us to set it up inside the country. But we knew that that was a trap. You had to accept certain conditions and growing restrictions.
Could TV operate at all?
I'm afraid not. But the law is not fully enforced yet, and there are deliberations on where the Taliban Sharia actually stands.
And what about radio, though? If women's voices are banned, then presumably that also impacts the radio stations.
Radio has seen restrictions already, such as a female caller talking to a male DJ or a host, or any caller trying to criticize the Taliban. That number has to be written down and passed on to the Taliban intelligence. So these restrictions are there. I think we shouldn't try to say that, okay, if there's no TV, radio is good enough. Or if there's no radio, probably social media is good enough. We're talking about Afghanistan. We're not talking about North Korea. We're not talking about Burma. We're not talking about Iran. We're talking about people, trying to have their voices heard in just 1 hour out of this small, tiny Virginia-based newsroom. We're talking about a generation grown up with press freedom being in their DNA. We're talking about, millions of Afghans who are online and trying to make sure that they're visible and they're heard.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.